But since you've been secretary, you have repeatedly disregarded the law. You have illegally impounded funds that Congress appropriated and that your branch of government must implement pursuant to the law. You hold sick, disrespectful press conferences in my state where, let me be clear, you are not welcome. You corruptly used emergency authority to avoid procurement to make Trump's private prison donors richer by directing $45 billion for them to expand ICE detention centers. Your department is out of control, but you're responsible. And I believe to my core that you are not fit to hold the office. And I again, to your face, demand your immediate resignation.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to America First, the channel where we don't sugarcoat the truth and we never back down from calling out the radical left's hypocrisy. If you're tired of the mainstream media running cover for political elites and pushing anti-American agendas, then you've come to the right place. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a breakdown of the madness that's taking place in Washington, D.C. Now, let's get right into it. What we just witnessed during this congressional hearing wasn't a legitimate oversight session. It was a public temper tantrum disguised as patriotism. Congresswoman Delia Ramirez took the microphone, not to conduct serious governance, but to smear, slander, and spew left-wing propaganda at a member of the executive branch who's actually trying to secure our nation. Let me walk you through what happened and why it matters.
Thank you, Chairman. Secretary, it's good to see you. I'm going to go straight to the questions because I have a lot of them. Let me start just following up with Congressman Goldman about judiciary. Do you agree that the judiciary is a co-equal branch of government and it is your obligation as a member of the executive branch to honor decisions made by the highest court of the land? Yes or no, Secretary?
We are abiding by all federal judges' orders, absolutely.
So, yes, it's a co-equal branch of government. Okay, well, let me ask you a follow-up question to that. Do you agree that Congress is a co-equal branch of government and it is your obligation as a member of the executive branch to honor legislation and appropriations duly authorized by Congress? Yes or no?
Yes, that's why I'm thrilled to work.
Well, let me ask you the follow-up question here because I have a lot of them. Do you agree that Article 1 of the Constitution gives Congress the power of the purse? Yes or no?
Yes, that is a duty.
Do you believe that, let me ask you another follow-up, it's just yes or no. Do you believe you have the power to disregard congressional appropriations and unilaterally repurpose funds that have been duly appropriated by Congress? Yes or no?
Ma'am, we are not doing that.
So the answer to you is no. All right, well, it was a yes or no, Secretary. Let me continue. Interestingly, you said no. But since you've been Secretary, you have repeatedly disregarded the law. You have illegally impounded funds that Congress appropriated and that your branch of government must implement pursuant to the law. Yet you've closed offices established in law, including the Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, the Office of the Immigration Detention Ombudsman, the Office of the Citizenship and Immigration Services, and you've canceled contracts for programs authorized in law, including shelter and service programs and citizenship and integration grants. You've obstructed and roughed up members of this committee as they attempted to conduct congressional oversight, and then you vilified them. But my question is, if they were so bad, why were they allowed to go in after to conduct oversight? Let me just continue. You redirected funds to terrorize our communities. You created taxpayer-funded political propaganda campaigns to terrorize families and children who don't sleep at night because of the terror of those commercials that you are putting out there. You hold sick, disrespectful press conferences in my state where, let me be clear, you are not welcome. You corruptly used emergency authority to avoid procurement to make Trump's private prison donors richer by directing $45 billion for them to expand ICE detention centers. You defunded work to address real threats to the Homeland, all while you pursued college newspaper editors, labor leaders, and even a Harvard scientist who failed to declare frog embryos at the airport. Clearly, we don't have time for all my questions, so I have 13 pages worth of questions that I will be submitting to the record that I expect you and the administration to answer. But here is my final question to you. When you took your oath, Did you swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America? Yes or no?
Yes, I did.
So I find it laughable. You don't behave like someone who takes that oath seriously. And let me tell you why. We don't live in a dictatorship or a monarchy. Trump's will is not the guiding doctrine of this nation, and our country is not a playground for his or your twisted authoritarian fantasies. We are a democracy. We defend the Constitution and we affirm the rule of law. We respect the co-equal branches of government and we uphold our rights, even when we disagree. The foundation of our nation is based on a core set of constitutional rights upon which our prosperity, our pluralism, and our peace depend on it. You, however, have been leading this work for 116 days. And in that time, you have profiled and dehumanized our neighbors. You've betrayed our constitutional commitment to due process. You've deported United States citizens. You've undermined the courts. You've broken the law. You've engaged in corruption. And you've weaponized the immigration system to violate civil rights. As Senator Murphy perfectly stated, your department is out of control. But you're responsible. You have betrayed the sacred fundamentals of your oath. And I believe to my core that you are not fit to hold the office. And I again, to your face, demand your immediate resignation. And I put it and place it on the record for all of us to see. With that, Chairman, I yield back.
Ramirez begins her time by asking basic constitutional questions. Do you believe the judiciary is a co-equal branch? Do you believe Congress controls the purse strings? Do you believe the executive must follow the law? The secretary calmly and respectfully answered yes to all of it. But here's the thing, Ramirez never cared about the answers. She wasn't listening. She had her speech ready. Her entire line of questioning was a setup, a trap, a political ambush. This wasn't oversight, it was a performance. Then she unleashes a list of accusations so long and so absurd that it would make Joseph McCarthy blush. She accuses the secretary of impounding funds, dismantling government offices, defunding programs, running propaganda campaigns, terrorizing communities, enriching private prison donors, and even going after Harvard scientists over frog embryos. You can't make this stuff up. No citations, no evidence, no documentation, just a tsunami of rage. Let's unpack one of her most disturbing claims. She accuses the department of terrorizing families and children through taxpayer-funded ads. What does she even mean by that? Are we not supposed to inform the public about immigration enforcement? Is it now terrorism to let people know the consequences of breaking our laws? That's not tyranny, that's law and order. She also claims that IC detention centers are somehow a giveaway to Trump donors. Let's break that down. ICE exists to detain those who violate immigration law. Congress, yes, the same body she claims to represent, funded it. And when you have record numbers of illegal border crossings, you need facilities to detain people until their cases are processed. That's called functioning government. If that money went to a contractor who supports President Trump, so what? Since when did private businesses lose their right to compete for government contracts based on political leanings? Let me tell you what's really going on here. The left has lost the argument on immigration. The American people want secure borders. They want the rule of law enforced. They're tired of the drugs, the human trafficking, the crime, and the chaos coming across our southern border. So what do politicians like Ramirez do? They go on the attack. They demonize the people trying to enforce the law. They scream about civil rights being violated, even as American citizens in border communities suffer from the fallout of failed policies. Let's talk about those American citizens for a moment. Ramirez accused the Secretary of deporting U.S. citizens. Now, let me be clear. If that actually happened, it would be an enormous scandal. But again, she offers no proof. Just the claim. And that's how the left plays the game. They don't need evidence. They just throw mud and hope something sticks. And the media? They eat it up. They won't fact-check her. They won't demand transparency. Because the only narrative they care about is the one that blames Republicans, demonizes Trump supporters, and protects the radical agenda. She also made it clear that the secretary is not welcome in her state. Well, guess what, Congresswoman? You don't get to dictate who serves in a federal agency. We are one nation. And while you may represent a district, you don't own the Department of Homeland Security. The Secretary answers to the people of the United States, not to one radical representative who wants to turn every hearing into a political rally. And let's not forget how she closed her remarks. She claims we don't live in a monarchy or dictatorship. She says Trump's will is not the guiding doctrine of this country. But who's really acting like a tyrant here? The Secretary who's following the law? Or the Congresswoman who demands resignation over policy differences and accuses others of treason for enforcing immigration statutes? Folks, this is what the left has become: angry, unhinged, intolerant, and fundamentally dishonest. They can't win debates. They can't defend their policies. So they scream, they insult, they accuse, and they try to destroy anyone who stands in the way of their radical transformation of America. But we see through it. We know the truth, and we are not afraid to speak it. So let me say this loud and clear to Congresswoman Ramirez: if you don't like the laws on the books, change them. But don't vilify the men and women tasked with enforcing them. Don't attack the Constitution while pretending to defend it. And don't you dare lecture this country about democracy while you silence dissent, slander patriots, and undermine the institutions that protect us. At America First, we stand with our Border Patrol. We stand with our ICE agents. We stand with every American who believes in national sovereignty, due process, and the rule of law. And most of all, we stand with the truth. If you agree, share this video. Help us spread the word. Let's expose the lies. Let's push back against the hysteria. And let's remind Washington that the American people are watching, and we've had enough. Thank you for tuning in to America First. Stay informed, stay bold, and as always, put America first.